Good evening. Welcome to this edition of the 411 Talk Song Radio Show, Red Pill Edition. My name is Leon Jones, and in this video, I'm going to ask a simple question. Is family overrated? So the title of this video is a question. Is family overrated? Now, I'm bringing this topic to the surface because when you look at online dating sites, particularly on the women's side, they always tell you how much they love their kids are my world, the kids are my life, my family is everything. But I will ask anybody who puts that in their profile, and that includes men, if family is everything to you, why would you be looking for a relationship? Because that person that's coming into your life, they're always going to be second. And if a person is going to be second, they're not going to take you seriously. Furthermore, when we use the term ROI, return on investment, if a person knows that they are not going to be first in a relationship, then they are also going to know that the return on investment is going to be low. So individuals who are in their family so much, they're not going to be worth investing their time, money, energy, or emotions into. Why? Because it'll simply be a waste of time. Now, when it comes to family, it's nothing wrong with having a family, but families today basically do not teach their children about relationships. You have a number of families who have their grown children still living at home, and the excuse that is always given out is that the economy is bad. But you who are parents, you were young at one time. Did you ever complain about the economy? That's an excuse. See, what it is with a number of particularly women in this generation, they can't live by themselves. They have what we call a loneliness syndrome. So they must have their kids around them. And a number of women, and there are some men who do the same thing, it's an escapism mechanism. They use their family or they hide inside the family by living their whole lives around their family so they don't have to deal with having a man in their life. Now, is that true for all women? No. And is that true for all men who are trying to escape having a woman in their life? No. But when it comes to family, you always hear this, blood is thicker than water. But the funny thing about family has this entitlement to where just because you are a relative, you have to come running to their rescue every time they get in trouble. Now, I don't believe that. Why? Because as adults, it is your responsibility to take care of yourself. Now, when it comes to an emergency, it is nothing wrong with helping a family member out. But you have a number of family members who aren't loyal. They're only related to you by blood. But at the end of the day, they are not looking to lift you up. In fact, family, for the most part, as much as everybody talks about it, family keeps you down. Why do they keep you down? Because you have a number of family members who are low lives themselves. And you also have family members who live through their children, especially if you are the only child. And see, what family members teach the only child is that that person who's the only child, life is supposed to revolve around you in most cases. Now, not in every case, but at the end of the day, when it comes to family, I believe family is overrated. It's not like it used to be. Many individuals really don't understand the concept of family because with the amount of divorces, there's a lot of so called blended families. And you might have one side who raises their kids one way and the other side who raises their kids another way. Or you might have individuals with kids still living at home and this individual with no kids living at home. But in either situation, it's going to be a total problem. And this is why I always advise men and, of course, women do not date anybody who has grown children living at home. The best scenario you're going to get, particularly from a man's point of view, is sexual gratification because that person who has grown children living at home, and some of them have grandchildren that they're taking care of from their children, they're also living at home. All that's going to do is take up time away from you. Because if that person is stuck taking care of their grown children, it's no sense in even wasting your time with that individual because at the end of the day, you're not going to be fulfilled. And what's going to happen is you're going to end up trying to find somebody else because time is precious. Now, am I saying all family is bad? No. But today's families don't teach their children how to be responsible people because the parents aren't responsible. Now, we live in a society that is called an entitlement society. And at the end of the day, you have a number of individuals who are very selfish. That's parents and that's children. Now, it is not the fault of the children that the parents are fucked up. Because you have a number of parents who don't understand what the hell is going on. In fact, the number of children out here are basically there for the paycheck or there to give the parents a social status so they can brag to their other friends that they had children. Now, if you don't believe me, look at what is going on around you. Many of us, when it comes to family, are really in denial because we have a number of family members who are just totally fucked up. They're out of pocket. And a lot of the family members aren't going to help you. But when it comes to lending a family member something, I'd say don't do it. Don't tell your family everything. And if family was so great, what if you and another family member had different political views? See, one thing I notice about families, particularly black families, they're very monolithic in thinking, especially when it comes to politics. And a lot of so-called black families, they've been indoctrinated to go to church. Now, again, going to church is not a bad thing. But the problem is, we were so indoctrinated by our parents to go to church, but we didn't question anything. Nowadays, pastors are being questioned. And you know, a lot of them preach family. But you have a number of pastors who aren't loyal themselves. You have a number of pastors who don't talk about family to the congregation. And again, when it comes to the black community, most of the pastors cater to the women because when it comes to men, particularly masculine men, preacher doesn't have anything for masculine men. In fact, he doesn't want to deal with masculine men, particularly if they're head of the household, because they can call that pastor out. And see, when it comes to institutions like education, media, corporate jobs, government, and religion, it's basically cut the man out of the picture. So the family is basically made up of a dysfunctional woman and dysfunctional children, where the father, he's basically on the outside paying money because the government told him to pay money. But at the end of the day, these kids aren't getting enlightened. They're not getting enriched. They're just getting fed more dysfunction from the institutions that I have just named you. And what happens to these kids? They grow up unstable themselves because they didn't have the proper teaching. See, when it comes to family, you need a balance of mother and father. You need the masculine side and you need the feminine side. Now, some people are going to disagree with what I am saying. Again, if you don't like the video, it's not going to hurt me if you thumb it down, because the truth is going to set you free. And I'm telling the truth to some of you all who live in dysfunctional environments but are too dumb to see that because you are in denial. And this is generally what happens when you see what's going on. See, I'm out in the field. I talk to people every day. And again, when it comes to family, family does not have that camaraderie like it once did. Just because you have a bunch of blood kids or even adopted kids, it doesn't mean that you are a family. Families work in tandem. They work as a team. In fact, the whole purpose of having kids anyway, nobody wants to hear it, is so that you can keep your lineage going, you can keep your name going, and if you have something to pass down to your children, you can pass it down. Because again, the object of family is to keep the next generation of families in your bloodline from having to work as hard as you did. But again, as I told you before, when it comes to family, I believe it is overrated. Because individuals don't work as family. You have some family members who believe they should be babysitting your kids for free. And if you make a family member pay for something, they're going to get upset. Well, just because you are my blood, that doesn't mean that I owe you something. Because when I do something for a family member, I do it out of the kindness of my heart. But I'm not going to be on their beckoning call. And when it comes to family, like I said, some of these dating profiles, and I see it more from the women's profiles, they love to tell you how much they love their family. But at the end of the day, they're in a dysfunctional environment. I know there's a site out there called Badu. And Badu has this column when it comes to relationship status. Some individuals say they're in a complicated relationship. Some individuals say they don't have dependent children, but they have what we call roommates. Well, what it is their children are not dependent on the parent for financial reasons, but they're dependent on that parent for shelter. Again, you have a number of grown kids who are in their 20s and some in their 30s and older who have failure to launch syndrome. And this is because the parents did not teach the children responsibility about being an adult. because a number of these parents aren't adults themselves. In fact, a number of these kids born today were born out of wedlock, and they were basically born from irresponsible sex. So when we talk about family, we talk about a unit where the man is the head, the woman is the support, and the kids are the workers. That's how it's always been. But when the father is out of the picture, the woman will try to lead, but the kids don't respect the woman. This is why kids run all over women. And when it comes to a number of women leading their households, women are basically trying to be friends to their children, and a number of these women are afraid of their children. See, they're not going to be like a man. A man's going to slap the shit out of their children if they get out of pocket. A woman is not. And because children know that they can get away with more with mama, they're going to run over mama. Now, is that true for all moms out there? Absolutely not. You have some dads who are also doormats as well. Now, again, I'm not knocking family, but I am telling you that you have a lot of families who call themselves families, but all they are basically blood relatives who are dysfunctional. They're not living as a family. Families are supposed to support each other in the time of need, but the time of need is not every time. And again, it's not anyone's responsibility to take care of your elderly parents, your grown children, your grandchildren. It is your responsibility to take care of yourself. And individuals have to understand that. Elderly parents have gotten a chance to live their life. So when their number is called, their number is called. Children need to understand what it is to live their life. Because if you're in your 40s, you're in your 50s, and you're in your 60s, you're still raising children, or you're trying to take care of grown-ass children that you didn't teach to take care of themselves, you're basically fucked. And it's your fault. It's because you allowed it to happen. And as a parent, there's a time that you have to let the birdies fly away. But many of you don't want to let the birdies fly away because many of you are selfish because you can't live alone in your own home. And this is because your parents didn't teach you the fundamentals about being an adult. And with the dysfunctional children today, that comes from the parents who have never grown up themselves. Now again, I am not blaming all parents. But see, remember something. Children see what parents do. Children are a direct reflection of parents. And if you don't believe me, you go out in the field and you look at how poor some of these children are. And you look at how some of these children disrespect their parents. Some of these children think that they're the boss of the household. In fact, you have some of these moms out here telling a man or telling a boy he's the man of the house. How you going to tell somebody they're the man of the house when they don't even know how to take care of themselves? But this is what goes on. So when it comes to family, family is not everything that people make it out to be. And if men and women, just to let you in on something, from a red pill perspective, you're on a dating site and you see anybody out there who says, my kids are my world, my kids are my life, my family comes first, don't date that person. And if you see that they have grown kids living at home, grandkids living with them, you see that any individual that's putting it out there that they have children living with them, don't date that person if you don't want to date that person. Because what's going to happen, it's going to be a waste of time for you, it's going to be a waste of energy, emotions, and it's going to be a waste of money. And you're going to be mad at the world because you made the mistake. Again, it's nothing wrong with loving your family, but you have too many moms, dads, and kids who are around each other every day, even when the kid's grown. Again, there's a time to have family, and there's a time to be an individual. And if you teach your children how to have relationships, your children aren't going to be coming home as much. They're not going to be living off of you. Now, if there is an unforeseen circumstance and your children have to go back home, that's one thing. But if they're just home and lying around, eating up your food, spending your money that you're giving them, and they're not doing anything to improve their life, then it's your fault for allowing that to happen as an adult. You got to lay down ground rules. And when it comes to families today, you got too many of them that basically allow each other to do what he or she wants to do, even adults. You got families, particularly headed by the mother, they're allowing their children, if you have daughters, they're allowing the daughters to bring boys in the house, and they're allowing boys to bring girls in the house, and they're having sex in the house. They're smoking pot, they're drinking. You even have mommy hanging out with the kids. They're going to the same type of bars that the kids are going to. They're trying to pick up the same type of men that their kids are picking up. You have mommy constantly going to weddings with non-family members because her kid told her to do so. And when you're allowing your kids to run the show, you're no longer the parent. Now, I'm hitting the mommies hard because most of the moms have the kids. And I'm sorry to say, ladies, most of the dysfunction is under your watch because you're the one with the kids. Now, of course, there are some dads who are very docile themselves, who weren't disciplinarians, and the kids will run over them too. And the reason why I say family is overrated, because when you raise children who are dysfunctional and your children aren't respecting you as a parent, well, children think they're going to go out and disrespect everybody else. But here's the difference. Your children go out into the real world and they bring that bullshit with them, guess what? Somebody's going to knock them right upside the head, and they're going to deserve it. And they're not going to care about you calling the cops on them because your child got his block knocked off. He deserved it. She deserved it. Why? Because you didn't teach that child about respect. That's why that child disrespected you, and you let it go on. And I'm talking to you parents out here. So my thing is, don't build a family if you're not ready to do so. because you have to have the character, you have to have the patience, you have to have the mindset, the finances. You have to be responsible if you want a family. And you got to stop trying to be friends with your children. Because at the end of the day, your children aren't going to respect you. Yeah, they'll love the things you do for them, but they're not going to respect you as a whole. Why? Because you are a pushover. And at the end of the day, it's the dad's job to teach children structure, and it's the mom's job to teach the nurturing side. Now, of course, politically, you have the feminists out here. The feminists don't want dads in the picture. Why? Because dads are a threat, especially if the dad is masculine. Now, if the dad is in the picture, the feminists like effeminate men because that puts the woman in control. And a lot of times when women control something, it is a disaster. They don't know how to control their own lives. So how can they control other people? You're not going to get the respect of your kids if you're a woman and you don't lay the law down. Nor would you get the respect from your kids if you are the man who's supposed to be the father. So remember, family starts with the two parents. Now, like I said, the reason why a lot of times it's overrated, because individuals are dysfunctional. They only come together when they want something. And that's families these days, not the good old-fashioned days. I remember when families used to cook. If you look at it, a lot of the parents, a lot of kids, they don't know how to cook today. They're irresponsible. And family doesn't care about anyone but themselves. So if you're a person who's part of a family and you have a direction that you want to go in that direction. Sometimes you got to leave family behind. And if you're in your 40s, 50s, and 60s, do not feel guilty about not wanting to babysit your grandkids. It's your time. You took care of your kids. It's their time to take care of their responsibility. Because if you really think about it, families today are nothing but dysfunctional children. Because you have adult children trying to teach adolescent children. They're all children. They have no clue about money, time, politics. A lot of these families aren't educated. And even the ones who are educated, they're busy working. They're busy thinking about themselves. So children aren't home being supervised. So at the end of the day, unless you're ready, don't have children. If you want to be selfish, don't participate in the building of families. Now, if you're ready to build a family, that's okay. But if you're going to build a family, you must be the one who's going to teach. You must have order. That's going to be the only way a family works. And you got too many families together who they're in each other's business, particularly when the children are dating or basically the mom or dad are dating. It is not my family's business who I'm dating. It's my business. And too many family members who have had bad relationships are basing your relationship off of their relationship. And this is why when you have a lot of women in your family, stay away. Because all they're going to do is give you negative energy. They're not going to allow you to think for yourself. And as a red pill man, you got to think for yourself. And families, because they live under the so-called systematic matrix, they're not going to understand what red pill is. Why? Because they still live in this system which is very delusional. It's deceptional. It's not loyal. So, as a person who understands family, just because you believe that blood is thicker than water, it really isn't. You are blood when it comes to being a relative, but are you really family? The answer really is it's very simple. No, you're not family. You can be family with somebody that you're not related to. But we basically base family off of blood, off individuals we take in as stepkids or we adopt. But at the end of the day, when it comes to family, a functional family has order. But today's family really isn't family. It's just a bunch of individuals running around with attitudes of entitlement. And if you don't believe me, what you have to do, you have to look around you. Again, family is supposed to be forever. But if you look at the hierarchy of everything, it's God, man, woman, and child. Not God, family, your man first. No, it's not an upside down pyramid. But you look at some of these dating sites with the women and some men putting them out, you're going to have the upside down pyramid. And if you date any of these individuals who are already coming out of the box by putting you last, then it is your fault. You're going to take the fall and you're going to be disappointed. So my last thing on this is family is overrated. You don't believe me? You look around you. Look at your own family. And that will tell you everything you need to know. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. You can catch me on Blog Talk Radio. And you can catch my other channel out, The Mind of STEM. And once again, I want to thank you for listening. That's it for this video. My name is Leon Jones. You have a good night. I'm out.